Okay, it's recording.
We're both here.
We're both here. This is Dr. Matt Hales, and we have Jesse Hill with us for our first Two Guys on Oil live presentation. Welcome, Jesse.
Yeah, and we don't just get to see each other.
What?
We don't just get to see each other, but you guys get to see.
You get to see what we're doing. So we have
Go ahead.
So I have purposely, I'm wearing, a respectable shirt. I'm not sitting in my underwear at home, and nor is Jesse.
I know that was one of the downfalls to this. So we really are excited about being able to be both of us on video, but the only problem is we have to dress now. So, but it's okay.
It's all right.
It kind of forced our hand. It's to make us do better. So we're working on some things. So welcome everybody tonight. Just as I was going through the two blends and looking at what's in them, there's some crossover, which is really cool. There's some oils in both that are similar, and but both of the blends. And here's the question I was going to ask you. And by the way, Natalie has put this video. She's shared it in Team Oily. She shared it in Two Guys on Oil. She shared it in lots of different groups. So you can go really to any of those. But most of you should be members of Two Guys on Oil. So go there, or you can obviously if you're on the Zoom call. But in any event, comments. I don't know what we're going to do for. We didn't talk about or clarify or specify, Matt, what we're doing about giveaway. We got to give away at least one Immortelle and one Serenity. So post comments. We'll go through all of them, and we'll give one of those each out.
Are you getting feedback?
No, I don't have any feedback.
Okay, that sounds all right. I just for a second there, it sounded like I was kind of hearing stuff in your mic.
No, I don't have anything on or turned on or playing back behind me, so we should be okay. I guess if we're sounding funky, please let us know. But so Immortelle and Serenity. Of course, Serenity is the oil of the month. Make your order by the 15th for 125 PV, and bam, you get Serenity.
You get Serenity. Is our key oil in the sleep studies we've been doing?
Yes.
Have you done any of those?
I have not. I've been too busy sleeping.
We've done 2 cycles with them, with the sleep study, and I've done 1 with the pain, and great results with the Serenity with the sleep study. So what we do is we give them a Serenity tab in the morning and a Serenity tab at night. We break it down because some people don't tolerate both of them at the same time very well. And so so everyone's doing the same thing. We do 1 in the morning because it kind of prepares the body, and then 1 in the evening, and then they put on the Serenity oil before they go to bed. And we had across the board, most people were sleeping longer than they were. In our study, the way we rated it was just by how many consecutive hours. So what was the largest block of time that you slept, and how many hours was it? And it went up by 2 to 3 hours in people that weren't sleeping generally across it. There were a few that only went up a little bit. There was one participant I can remember that actually had some pain issues, and so really all the Serenity in the world probably wasn't going to help her sleep. But we were able to rifle through some of that too and get her what she needed there. But yeah, Serenity, fantastic. It's a great blend for helping you go to sleep. It's got some good oils in it. I didn't pull.
What would you say? Everybody always talks about how important sleep is. You got to get a good sleep. So how do you define a good sleep? What does that mean? Well,
it's a deep sleep. So you go to sleep, you go deep enough, you get to that REM stage where you're dreaming, and that you sleep for a long enough period of time that your body can recover. I mean, that's really what we're looking at. So when we did ours, we just kept it to 2 things. So it was just whether or not they slept for a length of time adequate enough, and then how did they rate the quality? And that's where we kind of get into, they feel like they had dreams or whatever. Did you feel rested when you woke up? Because you could sleep 10 hours and not feel rested. So Absolutely. We want to know when they wake up, do they feel rested? And so they give us a 0 to 10 on how they feel, and then they give us 0 to 10 on how many hours. So was it 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours? What was the longest block? If you went 4 hours, woke up, went back to sleep for 3 hours, then you just reported 4 hours. It was your longest block. That's how we did it.
So it's not just length of sleep, but also how deep sleep you get is also important. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
people talking about sleep and how important it is. And obviously it's important, but what exactly is Serenity doing to help you sleep? I'm guessing that you've got some information.
Kind of. So I've got one here. This has to do with blood pressure. So evidence-based complementary alternative medicine journal in 2012. So here it is. These are actual things I pull and I highlight. Interesting things on them. So essential oil inhalation on blood pressure and salvatory or salivary cortisol levels in pre-hypertensive and hypertensive subjects. So what you're looking at are people that have high blood pressure, and they're measuring blood pressure and then cortisol levels in their saliva. Cortisol is the hormone your body produces when you're stressed. It's the hormone that gives you energy when you're stressed. So you need cortisol if you're running from a tiger. It also kind of makes your body efficient at storing and burning fat. So you tend to burn fat and store fat at the same time. So people that have high cortisol tend to burn fat on their extremities, like their arms and legs, but they'll store it in their midsection because it's convenient for your body. So you notice you kind of gain weight in the middle, but your legs and arms go thin. That's
so if you're running away from a tiger.
Yeah.
I just need to come back to this for a second. If you're running away from a tiger and you've got lots of cortisol stored in your midsection, not only are you going to have the ability to run away from the tiger, but you're also going to reduce your weight gain.
Yeah. So
I'm to take it there for a second because I'm imagining someone running away from a tiger being grateful for cortisol.
Yeah, you should be grateful for cortisol. But if you live there for a long period of time and you're not running away from the tiger anymore, but you've got it in you, you end up with some problems with how you store fat. But also you end up with high blood pressure because blood pressure is normal when you're under stress. So what they're looking at here is, in this study, they said the participants, the experimental group, was asked to inhale an essential oil blend with lavender, ylang-ylang, and marjoram. And neroli. What does this sound like, by the way? Real close to Serenity, right?
Yes, we're getting there.
Lavender, ylang-ylang, and marjoram in there. And then the placebo group was asked to inhale an artificial fragrance, something that smelled good, smelled like lavender, ylang-ylang, and marjoram, but it was synthetic. So this is a cool one because they're measuring real oil against synthetic oil, essentially, artificial fragrance for 24 hours. And then they had a control group that had no treatment. So they did this right, where they had a placebo group, an actual test group, an experimental group, and then they had a control group. And then they measured their blood pressure, their daytime systolic blood pressure, and their daytime diastolic blood pressure. Both went down significantly when they were smelling the lavender, ylang-ylang, and marjoram, as opposed to the placebo group or the control group. What didn't change a whole lot was nighttime, because blood pressure goes down anyway at nighttime. So they didn't notice a big significant change in blood pressure then, but they did notice it during the day. But they did notice that they had lower cortisol in the saliva. So these people had lower cortisol. So their conclusion was the inhalation of an essential oil had immediate and continuous effects on home systolic blood pressure and daytime blood pressure and stress reduction, which is that cortisol levels. Essential oils may have relaxation effects for controlling hypertension.
And so how often and how many folks are having issues with blood pressure?
Not very many. It's an extremely rare condition. Yeah, you hardly ever hear of anybody being diagnosed with high blood pressure anymore.
How many people are dealing with stress? That's got to be not very many.
That's really rare. I mean, how many? I mean, seriously, do you have a tiger on your tail? So if you don't have a tiger, you probably don't have stress. So these are I don't know why we're bringing these studies up, because they're so rare. That reality that essential oils almost can't help anybody, just a few small group of people that might be experiencing either stress or blood pressure. At least we know that essential oils are good for them. So when you're out in public and you're sharing essential oils, make sure that you don't accidentally share with somebody who doesn't need it.
Just have a tiger with you.
Yeah, have a tiger with you, but be careful. There's a lot of people that don't need what you have, so be careful not to share with them.
I do want to ask this again. Well, I know because we have two blends, and obviously Serenity is filled with just absolutely phenomenal oils. I'm a big, huge fan of Lang Lang. It helps me sleep. I put Lang Lang and Balance on every night before I go to bed. Of course, marjoram is unbelievable for my lower back.
Mm-hmm.
But in any event, and of course, vetiver, and I'm going to loop around and talk about vanilla bean, absolute, because there's probably a lot of you out there that probably assume that the only reason why vanilla bean is in Serenity is to make it smell a little nicer. But that's absolutely untrue. Vanilla bean has some great.
I like that vanilla bean extract that I get down in Mexico.
Yes.
Right, that's good stuff.
Well, so, and we're going to talk about Immortelle, but so, and I know I've brought this up before, but explain to all of us one more time, please, as best you can. What is it about smelling, inhaling an essential oil that can cause a physiological effect in the body? How does that work? I mean, how do you smell an essential oil that actually can change your physiology?
Okay, so ask yourself this. What controls your physiology, Jesse?
A tiger.
No.
All right.
What's the master control system for your body? Right, your brain, right? So your brain controls everything. So you trigger your brain in order to make a change. It's looking for responses. It's reading its environment, and it's saying, what is my response going to be in its environment? Essential oils, or the olfactory centers, actually bring in much of that information that your body is using to determine how it's going to respond. So it's going to affect you as much as seeing a tiger, causes your stress to go up. Smelling an oil can cause it to come down. You're just triggering the brain to change what it's doing inside. It's an effective way to do it.
It's pretty safe to say that inhalation or diffusing essential oils is kind of at the top as far as its ability to cause a physiological reaction in the body.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one right there, they just smelled the oil twice a day, I believe. So, okay. I mean, they're, just smelling the oil. That's all they need to do. In fact, they've got another one here, if I can find it, that was just smelling the oil. They were having...
While you're looking at that, so vanilla bean essential oil, are you ready for this?
What about
vanilla bean as being one of the essential oils in Serenity? I was curious to if it had actually had its own singular benefits, okay? And it has a lot of the same benefits that lavender does, or Lang Lang does. There's a grounding effect, helping to induce sleep, helping to lower blood pressure. It can help to reduce a fever. So vanilla essential oil is not just a nice, wonderful smelling essential oil. It is very, very important in that blend of Serenity. So I just thought it important to recognize one that doesn't get recognized often. So.
Props.
Yes.
Props. Okay.
No.
All right, how about this one? Here's another smelling one.
Okay.
Roman chamomile. Inhalation of a Roman chamomile essential oil attenuates depressive-like behavior in depressed rats.
Okay.
So if you're a depressed rat, Roman chamomile can be very helpful, or at least alpha-pinene, which is what they tested from Roman chamomile, but they particularly were looking at the alpha-pinene as the compound. They found that, what they did is they forced the... Whoa, what was that? Sounds like an Amber Alert or something.
I think the rats just need to get busy, like with doing something, like maybe get to work. I don't know. Yeah, well,
here's what they did: is they forced them to swim. So they basically threw them in a little. It's called the forced swim test, and they're like, swim, oh, swim. They would test whether the rat acts depressed when he's forced to swim. Or, it does sound a little barbaric, but.
You ever seen the Simpsons episode, or there's actually the movie, the Simpsons movie, where Homer Simpson is he's got a team of dogs in front of him, and he's going through the snow, and he's smacking his whip, and he's going, run, run, and then it goes to the next scene, and they're sleeping, and he's slapping the whip, and he's going, rest, rest.
Yeah, basically that. So they forced them to swim, and they found that they had fewer depressed. The rats appeared less depressed when they were forced to swim when they had inhaled the Roman chamomile. But when they actually broke this down, and it gets kind of complex, and they talk about the prefrontal cortex and the cytochromes and these protein inhibitors and the hippocampus and all this stuff, and it comes right down to these findings collectively suggest the involvement of mitochondrial function. So the mitochondria is an organelle inside the cell. And paraalbumin-related signaling in the antidepressant effect of alpha-pinene inhalation. So they were looking at specifically why it was doing it, but that yes, inhaling Roman chamomile made a rat less depressed, which probably good for us too. If you feel like you're in a rat race and you're being forced to swim when you didn't want to swim, Roman chamomile.
We know what to do if we find a group of depressed rats.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Awesome.
So here's here's one. This one isn't Roman chamomile. This is sandalwood.
I love sandalwood, especially.
Speaking of, we like sandalwood because it helps with serotonin too. So again, depressed rats probably do good with sandalwood. But in this one, we're looking at perennial allergic rhinitis. So we're looking at seasonal allergies.
Okay.
Randomized control study. This one is on people, not rats. 54 men and women aged between 20 and 60 were randomized to inhale aromatherapy oil. So again, we're just inhaling the oil, essential oil, from sandalwood, geranium, and ravensara. Which sandalwood, okay, we've got that in our Serenity. Geranium, is geranium in there? I'm not sure if geranium's in. I don't think it is. But geranium keeps showing up when I keep pulling this stuff. And so I like to talk about geranium too. And then ravensara, which is in the Breathe. And they did 5 minutes twice daily for 7 days. That's it. 5 minutes twice daily for 7 days. And the perennial allergic rhinitis, they did a score of the rhinoconjunctivitis quality and life questionnaire, sleep quality scale, and the fatigue level scale. So they did 3 different outcome tests on them. And they found that, in conclusion, inhalation of aromatherapy essential oil may have potential as an effective intervention to alleviate perennial allergic rhinitis.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Just smelling the dumb stuff was helping these people have less rhinoconjunctivitis, better sleep quality, and less fatigue in people who were suffering from seasonal allergies. Cool.
Like rhinoconjunctivitis, meaning like
nose, nose and eyes. It's allergy symptoms.
Like really big, like conjunctivitis, like rhino size. So like.
Yeah, well, it's like your nose is like big, like a rhinoceros.
All right.
That's where it gets its name.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah.
So, and the best news is Hawaiian sandalwood is in.
It's in both. That's why I pulled it. Both oils. Okay, but here is now moving over to the Immortelle, because Immortelle, favorite blend. Some of you have heard me talk about what we did with my son when he split his head open. Maybe I should share that.
You most certainly should share it.
I most certainly should share that. Brandon's getting ready to go on a mission for our church right out of high school. So he's 1 week out of high school, graduation. He's going on a mission the next week. And he decides that he's going out to jump on our trampoline with a snowboard. That's a logical thing for...
Yeah, that's how I would do it.
You just strap on a snowboard and start doing flips on the trampoline.
Machine gun, too?
Yeah, he didn't have that, but that would be commonly seen.
Knives, machine gun, snowboard.
Yeah. So he gets it. He's jumping on the trampoline, and the snowboard hits bad, comes up, hits him right here. Boom, slices this whole thing open like this, and it looked just like a third eye. So it was like the Cyclops, like opened all the way up like this. It was from here to here. And we have some awesome pictures of it. But we hear this screaming from it was more of a strangled sound. It was like a we go running around. It was on Memorial Day. I still remember this a couple years ago. But running around the backyard. Brandon had just walked ran into the back door, and I ran in behind him. And then just said he just turns around like this, and he's like, "Dad," and blood just goes off his face all over the place. It's draining down him, and he's like, "Dad, I think I'm hurt." And I said, "Yes, Brandon, you're hurt." So I said, lay down. Now, I worked in surgery for 10 years, so I'm fairly handy with situations like this. And first thing, you just don't panic, So we just get him down. It looks worse than it is, of course. And he lays down, and we get a whole towel, and we just blot it on his head like this and just kind of, start soaking stuff up. And I hold a little pressure there. And now, what do you think I'm doing here? I'm running from oils, right?
Yes, of course.
Because I don't know what I'm dealing with, but I know I'm going to try to help him before we go into the hospital. And he's upset because he's like, Dad, is this going to stop me from being able to go on my mission? Because he's like, he said, Brandon, you're probably going to have stitches. I don't know. It might delay you a little bit going in, but they have very specific days they go in. It might kick him back a month. It could really mess it up. So he's laying there, and we go and we grab clove oil, and we grab helichrysum, and we grab frankincense, and we put that in there. The clove to kind of numb it up, good for antibacterial, and then the helichrysum and to kind of help the bleeding, and the frankincense, and the bleeding just stops.
Yeah.
So we got it. We got the bleeding stopped. Now it's just puffy because you know how a goose egg is. So it's split open, but it's opening up like a big mouth right here, and it's right down to his scalp. Like you can see the frontal muscles right here, and I'm kind of pushing it together, but I can't quite get it together. So I said, honey, go get the lavender. So we put lavender around it and a little more frankincense, and we watch that swelling just go away.
Go way down, yeah.
So now we just have a line. We have an opening, and we've got a line, but I can actually bring it together. He's like, Dad, I don't want to have stitches. I don't. What can you do? Can you do something? And I'm like, man, this is a pretty big cut. But I said, tell you what, I'm gonna try something, and if it works, we'll do it. But if it doesn't work, we'll just go in and get it stitched up. And he's like, okay. I said, hon, go grab me the super glue. And so we go get some super glue, and we glue it across here. Now in surgery, it's a different compound. It's called Dermabond, and it's one, like, it's a little attachment to the molecule different than super glue, but it makes it flexible and it makes it not burn the skin. I didn't have that. It's also like $400 for that. I had super glue, which was $1.
Yes.
And so I just put a little bit in there, and I left a little weep hole so that it could drain in case it started swelling right in the center. And then we sterized it down. We covered it up. But here was our secret. We knew that this is not going to hold very long, and I'm probably going to have to clean it up the next day and reattach it, which was in the plan. But we took Immortel, and we started running a circle around several times a day to get it to heal quickly. If we could get it to heal quickly, then it was hopefully not going to break loose. The next day, I cleaned up all the old super glue, kind of reopened it up a little bit, and re-glued it back down. And that was the last time I touched it. He graduated. Actually, he had not graduated. He had not gone through his his ceremony yet. So his graduation ceremony, he's got a big cross of bandage across his forehead. But he ran an Immortel diligently because he wanted to go. 1 week from that day, we checked him in to the place where they get trained, and he just has a red line across here that's completely sealed up. Looks better than if I'd stitched it. We let him take it with him because he's gone for 2 years without us, and so he had an Immortel with him, and we just said, keep running that on there. And we watched as the months went by, it just faded, and now it's not even there. I mean, he has a very faint little line that you can see if you know he injured himself. I'm not suggesting that you do this. I'm very comfortable with this because I've worked in situations where I know what the scalp wound can handle, not because I worked in surgery for so long and we did these kind of closures. But it's amazing. We did this with essential oils and super glue, the whole thing, not a single bovie, like cauterization, nothing, all with essential oils and a little bit of super glue. I want some steri strips. So here's what I found. Evaluation of wound healing property of Commiphora, which is myrrh. It's a little bit different, a breed of myrrh, but it's extremely similar to what we have in doTERRA. And what they did is they evaluated how quickly the wound would heal in the presence of myrrh, which is, of course, in our Immortel blend. We already know that we got the helichrysum, which is great, but I wanted to look at this myrrh. So potential wound healing properties. They also checked it. So all they did is applied myrrh to the wound. This was in mice. They basically gave them a little injury on their paw, and then they would apply an ointment that had myrrh oil in it. And they did an antimicrobial test with it against 21 pathogenic bacteria and 4 fungal strains. And here's what they found: that the myrrh was not irritating to the wound. The wound showed significant increase in wound contraction rate, shorter epithelialization time, so the wound decreased size faster. The epithelialization is the new skin being brought up on the surface was shorter and had higher skin breaking strength. So remember, that's what we needed to do with his scar here. So we don't want that to break open. With the myrrh oil, we had higher skin breaking strength compared to the negative control. And overall, the antibacterial and antifungal activities of the oil resin were comparable with the standard antibiotics, ciprofloxacin and grisoflavin, respectively. So it was comparable to the antibiotics that you would have used topically on it anyway, and you heal faster with the myrrh oil. That's what we have in the Immortelle. We don't use this enough. We have similar stuff in the Correctex. Awesome. We can use the oils individually. Immortelle is less than the cost of trying to combine all those oils together. Like if you wanted all those oils, you're gonna spend a couple $100, but for not too much, I think it's about $100, maybe a little less wholesale, 70, 80 bucks. You got Immortelle, and it's got all that stuff to help somebody who has a wound after the fact. You can make your own balm with it. You could put a little Immortelle and some coconut oil, or you could just apply it like we did, just neat right on the skin to help it heal it faster. Awesome, cool stuff.
With everything that's in it, I mean, from a standpoint of using it topically, well, I've heard the stories. Maybe some folks could post on Facebook their experiences, but I've heard of several, not just one or two, but multiple instances where people have used Immortelle around their eye socket and have had incredible results.
With the vision, yeah.
Vision changing, and things that you can get in your eye. We talked about that earlier. So, very specific around the eye, helping. It's unbelievable.
Yep. Okay, here's one for you, Jesse.
Okay.
This study is emulsions and rectal formulations containing myrrh essential oil for better patient compliance. Okay. What we're doing here is people don't like the taste of myrrh, and so we're seeing which formulations for a suppository are going to work the best.
I love it. Go.
So what they found is suppositories that were put in a water-based formula absorb better in the intestines when you inserted than oil-based.
Okay.
So if you're going to do a suppository, which probably is going to happen, then you would need to, it would be better to put it, if you're going to dilute it in something water-based rather than oil-based. Now, why would that be?
Well, probably because it's the oil is well, just for the same reason that if you've got an essential oil on your skin that burns, you put fractionated coconut oil. Why? Because it separates the particles, I guess, to a point where you don't have,
kind of traps it up a little bit. In the case of fractionated coconut, allows it to absorb.
Right.
Yes, but when you go in the intestines, you have a watery layer inside that intestine, and you're not in the area of the intestines where you absorb fat very well. You need your bile to absorb the fat. So when you stick it in a fatty solution and put it in a suppository, it doesn't absorb it very well. It just kind of hangs out in there, and it traps it up in that oil, and it's not getting past the water membrane very well. And then, it's expelled. But if you put it in a water thing and it breaks open, you got a watery layer, water's repelled, the oil's repelled by water, and for some reason it just absorbs a little bit better there. That's why I think they didn't actually go into that. But they were testing which one worked better, and that's what they came to. And as I thought about it, I think I'm right. I think that's why.
Okay.
But I brought that up not to just talk about suppositories, but actually there's some science behind there and why. So
either way, I'm fine with it.
Either way, I know.
From either place of discussion, I'm okay.
Oh, here's one for the women. Effects of essential oil exposure on salivary estrogen concentration in perimenopausal women. So this is the time, premenopausal round before menopause. They were checking to see which essential oil will increase estrogen in the woman, and they're testing it on the salivary glands, or the saliva. How much estrogen are we showing up there? And so this is on women that were coming right into that last phase before menopause, where they're kind of going up and down with the estrogen. Can you guess which oil had the most effect? It's not what I thought. So I'm guessing like Lang Lang or these hormone oils. like clary sage or the other women's hormone oils, but it's not.
Not rose, is it?
Geranium.
Geranium.
Geranium oil. In fact, it was the only one they tested. So they tested clary sage, frankincense, geranium, lavender, jasmine absolute, neroli, rose, lang lang, orange, and Roman chamomile. They're all thought to relieve perimenopausal symptoms, but only one of them actually increased estrogen in the saliva in the women, and that was geranium. And this was published in Neuroendocrinology letter, I guess, 2017. Fascinating.
Well, I know that geranium, you were talking about putting oil on your son's head to reduce the swelling.
Mm-hmm.
I know you brought up geranium, so I'm just making a point that we've used geranium on goose eggs and with our children, and it's nothing short of a miracle when you put geranium on a bruise. It's visually you watch the body recover.
I haven't done that. I haven't used geranium on a bruise. I've used cypress a lot.
It's extraordinary. I mean, especially, and Natalie could tell you, she's had her nephew, Jill's little boy, fell down the stairs and got a goose egg, and they put that on it, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, but I'm pretty sure I remember. He just watched this goose egg just flatten itself back out, and it was just incredible.
Wow. Yeah, I've used frankincense and cypress on a goose egg with some good results, but I'm gonna have to try the geranium. Makes sense.
So
I had a couple other, but I think we covered them good.
Well, we did. I mean, Immortel obviously is this month. It's our if you make your order a certain amount of PV, then you get it for free. So I certainly recommend you do that with your, especially with your order before the 15th, so that you get the Serenity and the Immortel.
Mm-hmm.
And you can do that 4 times. The Immortel is definitely one of those oil blends that never ever want to be looking for and be out of. You definitely want to have that. I mean, for just so many reasons. I mean, we talked about how Immortel can help with wounds. I know that people are using Immortel to help with blemishes on the face, and people are using Immortel to help around their eyes. You talked about using Immortel for some of the oils in Immortel can help against seasonal allergy. I mean, so it's really one that's that lots of people use on their face, and a lot of times you use for skin, specifically for skin health, right? I mean, doTERRA's uses talk about helping to reduce the effects of lines on the eyes and face and forehead. So it's more of an anti-aging. So my assumption is that it's like everything else that essential oils do. It's just helping cells to go through their normal process and be healthier and function properly. And that's
all right. Now I got to bring one more up. Thanks, Jesse.
You're welcome.
Okay, quenching of singlet molecular oxygen by camphora myrrha extracts and methylfuran. So this one sounds like a bunch of gibberish, but this is a very cool one, and this is using the exact same breed of myrrh that doTERRA uses, which is the camphora myrrha. The quenching activity against singlet oxygen. Singlet oxygen is when the oxygen gets separated and it becomes essentially kind of like a free radical. So singlet oxygen is an active oxygen that goes through and destroys. It's what creates the, you might create a peroxide inside the body, which then does that oxidative damage and stress to the genes, the DNA degradation. So this is kind of what makes you age, what makes your cells fall apart, which makes them not work as well. You brought this up. What is it that's doing it? Well, this one, they tested myrrh, and they were testing its effect with the singlet molecular oxygen. And it says the essential oil of methylfuran shows a higher activity than the DL-alpha tocopherol, which is what they were testing it against, suggesting their potential usefulness to neutralize this deleterious form of molecular oxygen. So what they're doing is they're finding that when they tested the myrrh, it was protecting the cells against the peroxide that was being created by the molecular oxygen, or the singlet oxygen, which is that active form. And so yeah, that is in your Immortelle, and it's not just myrrh that's doing that, but they tested that with myrrh. It helps you not age. It helps your cells work better. It just helps you function better. No wonder you heal faster. You would heal faster. So again, they're looking at this stuff. It's out there. The stuff works. So being that it's such a rare thing for somebody to have aging cells, or any kind of damage to their DNA, again, very rare. So be careful on how you recommend this, that most people don't need what you have. So, when you're going out there, you should probably talk to everybody.
All right, so
because they definitely don't need that.
Here's the question I was going to ask before we started, because the Immortelle and the Serenity, every once in a while, the cynic in me thinks, Dr. Hill just put sandalwood and frankincense. They are all kind of grounding, good smelling oils, rose, put them all together and just made a good blend. That's all it is. Serenity, he just put lavender and lang lang, and they kind of go good together. So that's why he put those oils together. And what I think is interesting is it's all of the oils have all these incredibly different capabilities. But the amount of study and time that's gone into and the education behind the specific blending of these essential oils, because I remember watching, and I know we're a little bit over, but I remember I was at a it wasn't a convention, but Dr. Hill was talking, and he was talking about how he blends oils, and you can blend oils together, and you're not going to do harm, okay, really by blending, but there's a certain categorization of certain oils when you blend them together that you can obtain a whole different level of healing.
It's because when one blends with one, you have a chemical change, and you add another one. If you do it in the right order, you actually come up with new compounds. Yeah,
it's just really, really neat science that I'd like to learn a lot more about, this science of blending. But it's very specific with essential oils. It's not,
Aren't you glad that you don't have to do that?
Yes.
I mean, all the blends are right there. I would like to learn how to do it, but aren't I grateful that I don't have to, that they've done this for us? I've got Immortelle, I've got Balance, I've got Serenity, I've got the emotional wheel. I mean, yeah. I got things I got to do with my life, and I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad that they made it for us so that we can.
What else is good too is we don't. There's a benefit there that we don't have to do that, but it's also nice at the same time that because we have all of these at our disposal, we can experiment. We can try this oil with that oil for one of our kids. We can try this oil with that oil with this oil for an issue that we're having, and we can do that, and we can be safe in doing that. We can be empowered in doing that, and we don't have to get permission. It's just a really, really neat. So anyway.
Cool. Guys, we're going to have to sign off.
Yeah, we're done. That's it.
So we're going to do this again next month.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky. And the recording will stay here with the live. We also will release the video recording, and we can post that in our groups as well. So that if you're in my group, that'll end up in the Momentum with Peppermint group, Peppermint Revolution group. If you're in Jesse's, I think Natalie's already got it sharing in
all over the place.
Yeah, so she's already sharing it all over the place. So mine will come out soon. His is out now, and you're welcome to share those. And we'll just see you guys next month.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a great night, and we appreciate you taking time to be on the call.
May tomorrow. Oh, look at that! I was going to sing a song, but I gotta go. My family needs me.
Bye.
Bye.